Hello and welcome to another Blu-ray update video. In this one we're going to be talking about the January and February 2024 Eureka Blu-ray releases. We have 6 here to talk about, although 2 of them I haven't seen yet. And I'm eager to kind of dive into these and give you some brief thoughts. One of them, which I'll kick off right away, is a set and a duology of films I've already talked about in 2 different videos, so I won't beleaguer the point too much, but we have Samurai Wolf 1 and 2, which are spine number 282 and 283 in the Masters of Cinema collection. So obviously we'll do the 3 January releases first. These are 2 films by Hideo Gosho, Japanese films from 1966 and 1967. Gorgeous slipcover on this one. I've done 2 separate reviews on both these films and also talked about them in the first installment of my series called The Masters of Cinema Ultimatum. But they're essentially 2 kind of pulpy samurai chambara action films about this kind of wandering swordsman character, Kiba, played by Isao Natsuyagi, and he's just a brilliant actor. I love the character of Kiba, of Samurai Wolf, and or Furious Wolf as he calls himself in the film, and he gets into these various entanglements with local characters in these kinds of sparse locations in kind of I don't think it is in feudal era Japan. I think it's actually set in the 1800s, but he has a lot of kind of fun opponents to face. There's a mute swordsman with a monkey on his shoulder, and some great kind of performers playing his foes in these 2 films. Again, for more details and more of my thoughts on these, go check out my individual reviews, but I loved this set. Love the look of the film, the cinematography, the way Gosho is experimenting with telling the story visually and also bringing the audio out in certain sequences where it's like these men are fighting with swords and like all the audio drops out and you just hear like a clang of a sword or a swish of a robe. Fantastic stuff. This is a great set. Next up we have a Eureka Classics release. This is When Taekwondo Strikes. So this is from 1973, directed by Huang Feng, and stars Angela Mao. This is my first experience with an Angela Mao film, which is very exciting. I'd heard a lot about her, and we call her the female Bruce Lee. And I can kind of see why. I can kind of see the comparison that's going on there. Sammo Hung plays a Japanese henchman in this, which is quite interesting to see. You've got Carter Wong, Jun Ri, and I really enjoyed this one, and it's, I'm sometimes iffy on the older kind of 70s kind of period kind of kung fu movies, but this one was super fun, super enjoyable, and kind of interesting too. That there's a lot of feelings of like honor, and there's multiple sequences where characters are being tortured or held against their will, and they refuse to give in because they believe in a cause that's bigger than themselves. It's really about that, the pride and the honor, but also the feeling of purpose that drives these characters beyond kind of the limits of kind of physical pain and torture, and there is sacrifice within that, and that's kind of interesting dramatically. One thing that bugged me a little bit about the film was the sound design. It was just this kind of whoosh that was used for most like punches and kicks, and it's just used over and over again, and there's a lot of fight scenes in the film, so that the sound effects get very repetitive, but I loved the feel of the fight sequences, and Angela Mao just seeing her kick ass in this film was just incredible. They talk about how Rey in the Star Wars movies is a Mary Sue, which is not true. But Angela Mao is kind of a Mary Sue. She just kicks everyone's ass in the film till the very end of the film, where people get a few hits in, but it's fine. I love it. I love just seeing her just wipe the floor with like a whole group of guys with swords in this is one room, which is fantastic. So I really enjoyed When Taekwondo Strikes, and I'll talk about that as always in an individual video. But one thing I should mention is that in the extras of this, there's a huge special feature. And let me get the right title for it. It's from 1990. It's a documentary directed by Sandra Weintraub, and it's called The Best of Martial Arts Films, presented by John Saxon. This is like a 90-minute kind of highlight reel of some of the best action sequences in kind of martial arts movies, particularly Hong Kong martial arts movies. from like the 70s onwards, and you get Bruce Lee in there, you got Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yuen Bu, Cynthia Rothrock. The list goes on and on, even people I'm not familiar with, but what an incredible extra. And what makes this one very special for this particular release is that this the best of martial arts films has been kind of remastered specifically for this release. So the clips used in the film for the most part are now in their correct aspect ratio and from high definition remastered sources, which has not been seen before. So that's a really cool, well, huge extra, really. You want to talk about special features, literally a special feature. So it's a great asset to this release. And then we have the last one from January, a film by Wang Jing, Kung Fu Cult Master, starring Jet Li, and very briefly Sammo Hung, and a lot of other great actors. And this one, refer to my full review of it, but it's a very convoluted, confusing film for me with a lot of different characters. It was very difficult to grasp everything that was going on. I have to say I struggled a little bit with this one. But the feel of it was great, and the action sequences were incredible. I love the fantasy elements, but in particular the fantasy adventure element. It's about these two mythical weapons, the Heaven Reliant sword and the dragon saber, and all these different sects and groups. And there was just too many of them, I think. But I liked the grand tapestry feeling of it, even if I couldn't really ever step back to get the whole picture. I was just kind of stuck looking at one section of the tapestry and really enjoying it, but there's no way I can look at all of it because it's beyond my comprehension as someone who hasn't read the original novel in which this is based on. But some really fun stuff, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Next, moving into February's releases. Well, first we'll just talk about this because it is a film I've already seen, and I would say it's probably one of my all-time favorite war movies, and I've talked about this before. How, for me, the genre of the war movie is not one that I particularly love. I never really sit around going, oh, I'd love to watch a good war movie. It just never happens, Whereas other genres, it happens a lot. But one time I sat down and I'm watching a really good one, I really get into it and I really engage with it because it's such a fascinating subject, really. I think most people would agree. And there are people who are fanatical about it and people who aren't, but I would say that I get very intrigued by certain topics when it comes to the war, or the Great War, World War II, but just these intense periods of historical conflict that can be depicted to great dramatic effect in certain films, and that is certainly the case in this one, which is a World War One movie, directed by the great Stanley Kubrick, Paths of Glory, starring Kirk Douglas, and this is the brand new 4K release from Eureka in the MOC line. So this was already released in the collection, spine number 155, and I think I actually reviewed it way back when on my channel, and I just think it's a phenomenal film. The sequences in the trenches are just, unforgettable, frankly. That you really feel like you're there. And I think sometimes war movies can either, miss the mark a little bit in how they depict those kinds of sequences, or they go way too far. I don't know. There's definitely a scale, and this one, it just sits right on that scale, where it's kind of awe-inspiring in the worst possible ways, but executed in the best possible way, in a way that puts you in that situation. And Kirk Douglas gives a great performance. So I'm looking forward to really diving into this. I've skimmed through the 4K. It looks incredible. The image, it's a new restoration from the original camera negatives in 4K. Looks vastly superior to my eyes to the original Blu-ray. I'm going to do a whole video about that, comparing it to the original MOC release, and then also reviewing it and diving into some of the extras. But really great to get another upgrade from the MOC series in 4K with the same cover artwork on the inside here as we get on the original MOC release. So that's kind of cool. And you get the new slipcover, which has got a very striking image on it, I think. It's the first cover there, and I would say that this is, when they announced this one, I was like, yeah, damn right, like that's one I would love to see in 4K. And so I've skimmed through, done some kind of A/B tests of the two different, the original Blu-ray and this one, which I'm just itching now to actually sit down and just watch the whole film in 4K. So Kubrick in 4K, can't really go wrong with that, unless you're talking about Fear and Desire, which isn't isn't a film I'd be clamoring to see in 4K. And then we have two that I haven't got to yet, so I don't have a whole lot to say about these two. First, we'll go with from 1974, directed by Lo Wei. We have Slaughter in San Francisco, starring the one and the only Chuck Norris. So this one, I don't know anything about. I haven't looked into the story. I'm going to assume that there's a murder or a slaughter, and I'm going to assume that the city of San Francisco is involved. This one is pretty loaded with extras. Actually, I'll just give you a look at the front there while I read them off. So we have two different versions of the film. The Hong Kong theatrical and the US export version both have their own audio commentaries. One by Frank Jeng and Michael Worth, and the other by Mike Leader and Arne Venema. A new featurette by CFK Productions on the film career of Chuck Norris called Talking Chuck, or Karate Cowboy Talking Chuck. And then we have Return to Slaughter, the shooting locations of Slaughter in San Francisco, a new documentary by Michael Worth looking at the film locations, and featuring interviews and with the lead actor, Wong Tao, as well. So this one is loaded to the gills with special features, which is really cool, but I have not dove into it as of yet. But Chuck Norris, you can't really go wrong with Chuck Norris. That's a guy who's got a pretty magnetic screen presence. Certainly, you take notice when you see Chuck Norris on screen, that's all I'll say. So the final one here is a double pack. That's a beautiful slipcover on this. Holy shit, who did this one? Chris Malbon. Yeah, no surprise there. That's just, oof. Yakuza Wolf 1 and 2. Starring the great, inimitable Sonny Chiba. Shinichi Chiba. So these are two films. One's called I Perform Murder, and the other one is called Extend My Condolences. I'm not sure if that's their original titles, but they're released as Yakuza Wolf 1 and 2. I guess I'll find out once I dig into the Blu-ray and the extras. So this one, again, we'll talk about the extras briefly before I look at what these films are about. We have audio commentaries on both films by Mike Leader and Arne Venema. A new featurette by Howard Hughes looking at the spaghetti western influences on Yakuza Wolf and the broader influence Japanese cinema had on the western genre. That's called Lone Wolves, Yojimbo, Django, and Yakuza Wolf. And both films have new restorations and some original theatrical trailers as well. So the first one, it's spaghetti western inspired film. Chiba plays a mysterious black-clad killer with a personal vendetta against the Yakuza, and he manipulates two rival clans in order to draw out his targets, leading to a climactic bloody shootout that must be seen to be believed. So, I've talked before about how Yakuza films are not really my forte, but I love Sonny Chiba. I've really grown to enjoy him overseeing some of the films he's been in that Eureka released back in 2023 last year, like The Bullet Train, Samurai Reincarnation, The Fall of Akko Castle. It's nice to get a broader feeling of who Sonny Chiba was and what he was about beyond just Kill Bill, so I'm really enjoying kind of getting to see more of his stuff. And the second one, he plays a criminal who's betrayed and sent to prison. He serves his time and then he wages his war on the Yakuza, eventually raiding the mansion of the crime boss who turned on him in a spectacular action-packed climax that would later be directly homaged by John Woo in A Better Tomorrow 2. So I'm eager to kind of dive into these films. Mainly for my love of Sonny Chiba. I think I really like the guy, and I kind of gravitate towards the stuff that he did in his career. So that's pretty much it. I will get back to you in due course with more videos about these releases, and there's many more great Eureka releases to come from what I've seen on the recent announcements. But that's kind of a brief overview, a brief update of the past 2 months' releases. So let me know if you picked any of them up, what you think of them, and I'd enjoy talking about these great releases. Once again, from Eureka, it feels like they're just, they're going from stride to stride. And I know people are moaning about the kung fu stuff, but I think the quality of these releases that a lot of East Asian films are getting is for me really exciting. So I'm just really, you know, a happy physical media collector, I have to say, with these releases. And I really enjoyed the first three that I've talked about in the first half of the video, and I'm keen to get to the other ones. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and if you do feel like supporting the channel, please check out the Patreon page. I have a Facebook group, and I will be posting kind of behind the scenes stuff on the Patreon page as well. If you don't, that's fine. And again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.